All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maddie and Tawny Surviving and Thriving. Today, we have a very special guest who is a friend of a good friend of mine. Now, I would like to say a friend of mine as well, Garrett. Welcome, Garrett.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. So obviously I'm new to the Garrett show or to what, so I would love to hear your story.
So I was born September. No, I'm not going to go back.
Wait, no,
Good.
when is your birthday?
My birthday is September 7th. I'm a Virgo. You should be able to pick up on that.
My brother is September 6th.
Oh, okay. No, I think we talked about that. Yeah, right.
There's I have 5 friends who have a birthday of September 6th. But September 7th, I've never met someone who's a September 7th birthday.
There's a lot of us Virgos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I was born and raised here in the Northwest. I'm moved back to Seattle 5 years ago. And that's where I'm living right now. That's where I grew up, the Seattle area. And went to college in Colorado and then stayed in Colorado for 3 years afterwards. And that was kind of my break from the Northwest. And I saw the sun for 7 years and I still miss it till this day. But yeah, and so then I moved back. So when I was living I stayed in Colorado for 3 years after college. I moved to a town called Telluride. It's like a little ski town. Was kind of just doing the ski bum game, working a liquor store and skiing 7 days a week. That'll.
How cool! Jealous? No, I don't know. I wish I could have lived that life.
I miss it every day. But so then I decided to move back to Seattle because I was I need to kind of figure out where I'm gonna go with work and kind of just figure out what that next chapter is going to be. And in a ski town, it's everyone's just living day by day. It's super fun, but it's hard to kind of figure out what you want to do if you don't already know what you want to do. And I didn't, and maybe still don't. Figuring it out still, but have better grasp these days.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I was like, me too. I tell Maddie all the time I want to be like her when I grow up, even though I didn't.
Yeah, well, I think us millennials moved jobs 20 times in our lifetime. So you guys are a bit younger than me, so I don't know if you're technically considered millennials. So is that a thing?
Am I? I'm 34.
You're Tawny, 34? You're a millennial for sure.
Okay, because I'm 31, and then Maddie, you're a little younger.
How old am I? 25.
Okay, we got spectrum here. So I think we're all millennials.
I'm a decade older than you. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Age is just a number.
Age is
just a number.
Yeah. We'll get to the part where I say aged a lot faster in the last 5 years. We'll talk about that later. No, so when I moved back to Telluride, I was just living at home over on Bainbridge Island, which is where I'm from, right outside Seattle. And was just kind of working odd jobs, doing construction work and trying to kind of play the networking game in Seattle and figure out work and living with my parents over on Bainbridge. And so I think it was 3 or 4 months after I had gotten back from Telluride and was just kind of settling back into, city life or whatever and trying to figure out where I was going to go in Seattle work-wise. That's when I had my motorcycle accident. And I was just riding back home to my parents' place because I was living in their place and working at a job site doing construction work. And so I was on my motorcycle going back home one day after work. And that's when I got hit by a USPS truck. Yeah, helmet came off, wasn't great. So it was a traumatic brain injury was kind of the center of mine.
You had a helmet on.
I had a helmet on, came off after impact and flying through the air or whatever. And then, so my main injury was definitely the traumatic brain injury. I broke my wrist, but otherwise not too much physically speaking. It was mostly just a traumatic brain injury, which obviously is physical, but kind of no physical injuries beyond the traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I was in the hospital for a month, and here I am. That was 5 years ago, so it wasn't lots happened since. But that's kind of my I'm jumping the gun here and going right to the injury, but I figured that's obviously part of the reason why we're talking today. So I just figured I would give you kind of a little bit of a jump right into that. So
I appreciate that. So were you cognizant? Do you remember going to the hospital? Do you remember the first couple of days? Just because it's so different for all of us. Some people, don't remember the first 3 months. They don't remember a week or.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Brain injuries or whatever. It's it's so different for everybody. Do you have migraines afterwards? Do you remember, and so for me, I don't remember 2 days prior. And then I was in the hospital for a month and I like don't remember the first week for sure. Like first week for sure, first week and a half, kind of a gray area as far as like when I started like remembering being there. And then so I remember like the last like week or so I was in the hospital, and then after that it was like, you know, I kind of more or less remember most things after that.
But you said you don't
so
remember like 2 days before, like the couple of
weekend
days.
before, yeah, 'cause it was Monday.
Wow.
I think it was Monday at work, and I don't remember the weekend before really. I know my friend came over to my parents' place, but I don't remember that for whatever reason. Yeah, it's
I
weird.
wonder if just like from the trauma, your brain just like blocked all that out of here.
Yeah, it's like just when in doubt, let's just block out the few days before and the few days
It never happened.
Yeah, it's like it never happened.
So you said you were like in the hospital for 2 weeks?
I was there for a month actually, but I don't remember
a month.
I don't remember the first 2 weeks. I was like, you know, a lot of details are like unclear to me. I didn't really do much investigating afterwards, but like, you know, I don't really remember the first 2 weeks I was there. And like the first like 3 days, I think I was like in the ICU or something. I don't think I ever really went into a coma. Unclear. But like, my parents are actually on vacation, which was unfortunate up in Whistler. And so they got a call at like 10 o'clock that night, and I just drove straight back from Whistler to Seattle. And so they kind of found me in the ER probably at that time. I had not moved to the ICU. Yeah, so I don't think I really was really technically in a coma, like maybe like out of it for like a day type of thing. But yeah, there for a month. And it was mostly just the TBI. Like once I got like the approval to come back to society or whatever, it was like that's when I kind of like, they're like, hey, yeah, you know, you're cognitive, you're able to function a bit more, so we'll let you go. And that was like, you know, I was there for a month, and that's kind of the time it took to get back to that point, you know, where they were able
so when you got like released from the hospital, was there any type of therapy that you had to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like definitely like cognitive stuff, speech therapy. And so I would go back into like Harborview Hospital, which is like the big ER hospital, or one of the big hospitals here in Seattle, really good ER. And I'm lucky it happened where it did, honestly. And I would go in like 2 days a week for the first few months and just like go back in for speech therapy, cognitive therapy, also some physical therapy for my wrist, but that was kind of, you know, nothing really going on there, honestly. But it was, so I was going in a few days a week, and because I wasn't working the first like, for sure the first like 2, maybe 3 months I was after I got out of the hospital. Yeah.
But then after a couple of months, you were able to get back to work?
Yeah, so I was working construction, right? So I was working at a job site, and the guy who I was working for, you know, good friend, lives on Bainbridge Island, guy I grew up with or whatever. And he was just like, oh, like, you know, come back whenever you're feeling up to it. And so like, I think it was like November, so a few months, or maybe October, but a few months after I got out of the hospital, he allowed me to show up, and I would just like kind of show up a few hours a week and just like sweep. And he's like, just show up whenever and you can sweep or whatever, and just come by and say hi. And
I would say 40 minutes, so probably more like 5:15 or so.
Okay, I'm in the middle of the interview.
Patrick?
Yeah.
But honestly, props to you for just like jumping right in. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was definitely like, I think for me, like all the things I was doing at that point was like, I recognized, like, I always wonder, like, when did I realize like what happened? I don't really know, you know, like what is that point? I think the moment I feel like I just recognized from day one, I was like, I should be here. I forget what happened exactly, but it makes sense that like, I could recognize that I wasn't, you know, on my A game per se or whatever. And so I think kind of from day one, it was like, okay, I need to check all these boxes, try to like help with my recovery. And I think like going back to work eventually, even if it's just a few days a week for a few hours, I knew that would help me. So I was kind of very much so, and thankfully able to focus on that recovery from day one, right? You know, I was very lucky I had the support of my family, and that definitely was a big driver, you know.
Super nice that your boss was like accommodating, like, okay, well, we'll just have you do this, like something different. That definitely helps.
Super lucky. Yeah, you know, I think it's definitely those things where you look back and it's like, you know, I just moved back to Seattle, so I hadn't like really gone down a career trajectory at that point too. So it's like, you know, one of those things you look back, it's like, wow, it's really good timing. So it happened now, you know, it would be harder, you know, right? It's like my job's not the sort of job where I can just show up and sweep for a few hours. No one's in my office A, so there's no sweeping to do. And B, you know, so definitely less flexibility. So I was pretty fortunate I was in that like kind of scenario when it happened, you know.
Question.
So no, go ahead. I was just gonna say, what was your biggest deficit you noticed? Because you talked about speech therapy and cognitive, and like talking to you, I'm sure you get what everyone. You look fine. It looks like nothing happened to you. You're like,
Yeah. That's why I love Zoom calls. You can't see the whole picture.
that's true. I can check out and check in.
No, don't worry. I can walk too, which is good. So yeah, it was all cognitive, honestly, right? Like again, I got super lucky, just broke the wrist, and then so when I got out of the hospital, it was like I had to like definitely there were some physical things like walking. It was like kind of dragging one foot for a little bit, and like definitely some physical things, but nothing really worth noting. My mom had me going to the gym pretty quickly because she's a physical therapist, so she kind of helped with that side of things. But again, nothing really drastic there besides the fact that I hadn't really done anything for a month or so. And but yeah, I was just thinking about today actually being like, cause I tell people it's like I feel like I kind of had to like relearn how to like read and do math, not like completely right. I could like but like my sister was also at home for like a month or so right when I got out of the hospital, which was really awesome because she had just gotten back from her honeymoon and she was moving jobs and stuff, so she had time as well. So she would like sit me down, like we'd look at a magazine. She'd be like, "Can you read this out loud to me?" And so she kind of helped me like learn how to like,
Nice.
which kind of goes back to the speech therapy thing a little bit, like kind of read aloud, read, and then also I was telling Maddie this that like I have an app that I use till this day called Elevate. That's like
I was going to ask you about that again.
I was like, I need to write that
A
down.
little bit about it.
Yeah, Elevate. I use it till this day, and it was like a little math teaser or math games, vocab, spelling, and so I was definitely like on my phone like every day playing both that and another game, which I'm forgetting the name right now. But I play it twice, those two games every day, and go to the gym 3 days a week and practice with my sister playing some board games as well, but also just practicing reading and stuff. And but I think for me in general, one of the big pieces I claim that helped with my recovery was like the physical, like my mom getting me back to the gym pretty quickly. I think like the physical activity helped with my recovery.